Thanks. Hi, I'm here to talk about this cool acoustic bass that I picked up. It's the first acoustic bass that I've ever owned. I've been playing bass for almost 30 years, 3 decades. I've been playing guitar for slightly longer, like 31 years or 31 and a half or something. But anyway, I picked up this bass from a friend of mine and got it really cheap. It's kind of dinged up. I don't know if you can see any of the nicks and dings. Yeah, you can definitely see some of those. But I got it cheap enough, and I figured, why not? So, grabbed it. It is a Jasmine by Takamine, which, looking online, is one of, like, a very low budget kind of entry-level thing, which if you've seen any of my other videos, I have absolutely no problem with low budget instruments. You just have to pick, you have to be a little more choosy with them, pick and choose the right ones. Which reminds me, subscribe to my channel and you'll get all kinds of cool videos like this. Anyway, excuse me, so it is the ES50C, and judging by the serial number, it's about 15 years old. So it's held up nicely for 15 years so far. The top is nice and flat the way it's supposed to be. It's pulled up a tiny bit, but I think that might have been purposely built in. The bridge is still nice and solid down. There's no lifting or anything like that. I got a couple of specs online. The nut is 1 5/8 inches. So it's a nice comfortable bass kind of a thing. I'm used to a jazz bass which has a little bit of a narrower nut width and definitely a much slimmer neck. This is a thicker neck, but I'm used to a jazz bass and this doesn't at all feel like it's way too huge. It's a nice, good, solid neck, and it has to be, because with an acoustic bass you really need the thicker strings to get the volume and the projection and the tone out of it. You can't really get by with, like on my jazz bass I have like astoundingly thin strings and everything. You can't really get rid of, you can't really get what you need out of the bass with the thin strings like that on an acoustic bass. The scale is 34 inches, and it has electronics, and they are passive, which has some upsides and some downsides. The downside is the tone sculpting is really incredibly minimal. Since it's passive, if you have the gain and the tone up all the way, that's just the maximum you can get, of course, up all the way. So all you can do is take volume away from the output, or take, in the case of the tone, high frequencies away from the output. You can't boost any frequencies or anything like that. So tone shaping is almost non-existent. But again, for a really inexpensive bass, it's not an issue, and it's easy enough to put in a active system if you wanted it. I would recommend going with an outboard. Just have an EQ pedal or something like that, or even just a direct box and everything to boost the signal and all that. So the tuners are just cheap enclosed gear type tuners, but it works great. So when I got it, it definitely needed, the truss rod needed to be adjusted, and the action was way too high. The action was way too high, and the intonation was completely a disaster. So what I did was I filed the nut slots down, so you probably can't see, but each of these I scooped a little U just to get it down enough. Then, with the nut slot being whatever it is, 1/8 of an inch thick, I was able to sort of bevel the bottom of each, sorry, nut slot, bridge slot, I meant bridge. The bottom of each bridge slot to fine tune the intonation. Once I got the action down, the intonation was much better. So all I really had to do was fine tune it. So now the intonation It isn't spectacular, but it's certainly usable and decent enough. So how does it sound? Acoustically, it sounds okay. Out of tune. And I just tuned it before the video, but it's the heat in here, it's forced hot air, and it's making it all go wacky. But anyway, it sounds great acoustically and all that. And then the electronics, again, with everything pinned all the way up, it is just gain and tone. With both of those all the way up, I had to turn the amp up way louder than I ever have to with an electric instrument. So it's very weak output. But with that being said, you turn the amp way up and so it sounds cool. I have the action set pretty low, and I play pretty hard with my right hand, so that's why there's some string rattle, some fret buzz and stuff like that. But that's part of what I'm trying to actually accomplish, so it's not a bad point of the instrument. It is really bright, the tone, which is actually nice with the passive, because I can take treble out. So it's pretty tough if it's not bright enough to add anything in. But I can take treble out. So all the way down. It doesn't seem like it's a smooth transition. So this is 10. This is 5. It's about the same. This is 3. You can start to hear some treble coming out. This is 2. Now suddenly there's a ton of treble coming out. And this, I'm sorry, that was about 1. It's hard to judge on the scale. Doesn't quite line up, but so that was about 1-ish. This is 0. So that's a cool usable. If you really wanted to, yeah, it's probably more trouble than it's worth to change this all out. I would go with an outboard EQ. So I'm totally not used to the bigger neck and the bigger strings, but it sounds good. It works well. It's really cool. The back and sides, I believe, are NATO. The top is spruce. It's nice. It looks like it's book matched nicely. Looking in here, let me turn the volume. Looking in here, it looks like it's a ply. It's not plywood, but it looks like it's spruce on the top and then another wood underneath. It's not, I don't think, solid spruce top. But it plays well. It sounds good. It's a decent instrument. I would highly recommend it if you were looking for a fairly inexpensive acoustic bass. But keep in mind that the volume and tone options are extremely limited because it's not an active. A plus side of that, and actually I forgot to mention, I like the active because you don't have to worry about a battery dying or anything. You have outboard stuff to take care of it, and outboard tone shaping pedals and stuff like that are going to be a lot better than really anything you could put inside of an instrument anyway. So I see no real issue with it. But it sounds nice. It plays great. I would highly recommend it.